Thank this Friends of Israel in Scotland for being the powerhouse to put it all together, and I hope you all enjoy the Shalom International Fringe event. Thank you.
Hello to all friends of Israel across the United Kingdom, from England, Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales in particular, to celebrate the Shalom Festival, which will be taking place at the Edinburgh Fringe on the 17th of August. I'm really proud that my country is playing a leading role in explaining and celebrating the cultural diversity of Israel, and also that we're able to showcase that in the great city of Edinburgh. Scotland has always been a very diverse place to grow up. People from all parts of the world are welcome there and made to feel at home. And therefore I think it's particularly important that the Shalom Festival is taking place in Edinburgh at the Fringe, surrounded by my fellow countrymen and women, but also from people from all over the world. I wish the Shalom Festival every success. I'm sure it's going to be the first of many, and I hope that you enjoy all the fantastic acts that will come across from Israel to participate in this magnificent event.
Yeah, and that is the promo that we produced for the International Shalom Festival up at the Edinburgh Fringe. And I just want to read out Ruti, who's one of our viewers of Revelation TV, sent me a message, and it just really describes what she felt and her experiences at the International Shalom Festival. She said, I hope she won't mind me reading this out, by the way. So, Shalom Simon, it's just me, Ruti. It was good to see you again, though briefly, in Edinburgh. I trust you had a safe journey home and that you get some time to relax over the weekend, as it was a full-on day for you guys. The team here have had some really positive feedback from many of the folks who attended, and particularly the ones who had no connection at all with Israel and hadn't known what to expect. Also, the police squad who handled the security both indoors and outdoors came away with a new outlook and respect regarding Israel and for the Israeli team. Feedback was that the police remarked on the contrast between the militant mob of demonstrators outside and the way our Israeli guests handled themselves quietly and dignitely, and didn't allow those ghastly demo folks to faze them or spoil the festival. Already discussing, some of us ready for starting a plan for the next 4 years for the Shalom Fringe, and it was really a great success. Folks loved it and were well impressed. So there we go. So thank you, Ruti, for that one of our Scottish viewers. And I think the kind of contrast was the police that had to stand outside the venue, and the contrast between and the spirit in which the Shalom Festival was carried out, and it was a real mixture of Jews and Christians and others, with a combination of Israeli Jewish culture as well as Israeli Arab culture combined to make quite an interesting day, as it were. But clearly there's a sheer contrast between the two sides, isn't there?
Well, firstly, the police in Scotland are great. We have a relationship with them also in Glasgow, and they support what we do every Saturday in Buchanan Street, and they were terrific at the Shalom Festival. And as you say, they couldn't believe the contrast between what was happening inside and what was happening outside. And Michael McCann said he wishes us every success, and the event was incredibly successful. Hundreds of people turned up at the Shalom Festival. During the day we had people coming and going to look at the exhibits and the demonstrations and the films and the chats. And in the evening we had this most remarkable concert with Israeli artists, and the final of which was this group called Ana Aref, who have a combination of both Israeli and Arab music, and they actually showed people how these two cultures can come together, and that's what we're trying to do in Scotland over the next few years.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll have a little bit of an extract from Ana RF, and this was taken on some amateur video, so hopefully we'll have that in a minute for you. But also I think it's important that what you've been able to do with Glasgow Friends of Israel, and what our good friend Nigel Goodrich has been able to achieve through many of these Friends of Israel groups being established up in Scotland is to take the narrative back regarding Israel, and knowing that before we saw that Scotland was very hostile towards Israel, but we're seeing that the climate is changing, and we're seeing a real change in Israel's favour, aren't we, in Scotland, with so many active Israel groups now being established and being set up.
I think people have the wrong impression about Scotland. There is a minority of people in Scotland who support the pro-Palestinian cause. And, you know, they've got every right to do that. But you know what they say, empty vessels make the loudest noise. So in essence, these people are very few, but they're incredibly loud, incredibly arrogant. And we know that over time we'll get more and more people supporting our cause and fewer people supporting their cause, because they can see the difference between our way of doing things and their way of doing things. We are peaceful, they're aggressive. We are pleasant, they're horrific. And it's a much nicer way to be the way we do things.
Okay. So let's have a look at a little bit of this amateur video of Anna RF, which is an Israeli band that also have a very Arabic flair to their music. Don't see that. If you watch closely in that video, you'll see Ishmael Khalid, who is Israel's first Bedouin diplomat, wearing his traditional Bedouin garments and dancing around with an Israeli flag. I don't think you'll see that very often, so it's worth watching that just for that. I have to ask you, in terms of the different approach you take regarding the Palestinians themselves, and the difference between you and the SPSC, is that you reached out to the Palestinian Youth Orchestra that visited Glasgow in the name of peace and goodwill to counter the BDS and to show the contrast. Can you tell us the story behind it?
Sure. I mean, we found out that the Palestinian Youth Orchestra was visiting Scotland. They were doing a tour of Scotland, and we discovered they were having a free concert at the City Chambers in Glasgow before they started their tour. So we were invited by the City Council to speak to these young people, and we wanted to welcome them to Glasgow because we are the Glasgow Friends of Israel, and we wanted these young people to know that we were really keen for them to know that we support both Israelis and Palestinians, and that we are a friendly city to them, and we are a friendly organization to them. And so we went to the concert, we spoke to the young people, we heard all about their stories. They had a reception later on, and we spent quite a long time talking to them. Now you compare that to the reception that the SPSC were giving Israeli artists when they came to Scotland. It's a shame for Scotland. I mean, the authorities who try and help us as much as they can, there's very little they can do about this kind of demonstration, and I think they will be trying harder. But the contrast between what we do and what they do is night and day, and we love people, they hate people.
Absolutely. And you don't organise counter protests or demonstrations outside, say, for example, the Palestinian Youth Orchestra. You didn't organise an anti-Palestinian demonstration outside one of the Glasgow halls where they're playing. You didn't say showing the Palestinian flag covered in blood and saying they're all terrorists or what have you, or go home Palestinians. There was none of that, was there?
No. We want them to come to Scotland. We want them to see what a wonderful place Scotland can be. Now, one of the people I spoke to said that they heard that we would have a counter demo at the Shalom Festival, and we're all ready for that. But that's not what we do. Why would we want to spend our time standing opposite these horrific people, looking in their eyes and shouting at them? We're much better off being inside and enjoying ourselves. So we have no interest whatsoever in counter-demoing against these people. It's a complete waste of time. It does absolutely no good. And why would we want to do that?
Absolutely. I have to talk about something which is very current, which is also very important, because one of the leading members of the Scottish Parliament put out, was it a motion in support of the Celtic fans waving a Palestinian flag at a very crucial Champions League game between Celtic Football Club and that of Beersheva in Israel,
yes.
which is an Israeli football team. Can you share what happened there?
I find it really quite difficult to understand why Celtic fans support the Palestinian cause. Celtic and the Jewish community in Glasgow go back a long way. We've been very close in the past, but recently a lot of Celtic fans have become pro-Palestinian, and I can't quite see what politics has got to do with football. They should really be kept apart, but for some reason they've taken up this cause and they're standing in Celtic Park in Parkhead shouting these horrific slogans against Israel. Now, there was a demonstration at the game last week, and they all brought out Palestinian flags. And clearly that is in breach of UEFA rules. They should not be allowed to have political statements at sporting events. Now, this MSP is actually quite a young, new MSP. His name is Ross Greer. He is a Green, he's with the Scottish Greens, and he's presented a motion saying that the Parliament should be supporting the Palestinian flags in Celtic Park. So here's a lawmaker in the Scottish Parliament encouraging people to break the law in football. That just doesn't make sense to me. Why would he want to do that? The guys can support the Palestinians, but they don't have to do it at football matches.
No, absolutely. I completely agree with you. Do you think there will be any backlash against him or any problems? Because he's in a position of responsibility as being a lawmaker in the Scottish Parliament. Well,
there are quite a few politicians in the Scottish Parliament that we know are anti-Semitic. I'm not saying Ross Greer is anti-Semitic because he's quite a new guy, and I've actually seen him at the hustings. I don't believe he's anti-Semitic, but I think he's mistaken when it comes to his anti-Israel rhetoric. He's never been there. He doesn't really know what he's talking about, and it would be great if we can get him out to Israel to see what it's like before he makes these statements in the future.
Absolutely. And as of the recording of this programme, I believe that Celtic are playing Hapoel Beersheva in the Negev, and one thing that Celtic and the players and also the fans going to watch the game can receive a very warm welcome in Israel. Do you think that on their visit to Israel that they will be impressed by what they see, but also the warmth of Israeli hospitality?
There was a suggestion on our Facebook page that if these people are so committed to the Palestinian cause, perhaps they should take the Palestinian flags with them and be brave enough to display them in Beersheva. But I don't think there'll be too many of those. And I think most of the Celtic fans will get an incredibly warm welcome in Israel, because Israel does not want to mix sport and politics. We're there to play football, and they want to watch the game, and they don't want any politics introduced into that game.
Absolutely. And I think I can call you officially, Sammy, a kind of an Israeli Scot.
Yes.
So can you share with us the rich cultural diversity and also the rich Israeli culture that goes back thousands of years that Israel has to offer?
Well, people need to remember that Jewish people have lived in what was the Holy Land for centuries. They've never left the Holy Land, and a lot of the culture comes from there. When Jewish people pray on a daily basis, they mention Jerusalem on a regular basis. Jerusalem is in our Bible, for example. Jerusalem is not mentioned in the Quran, for example. So although Muslims say that Jerusalem is very important to them, it's never mentioned in the Quran at all. It's mentioned over and over and over again in the Old Testament and the prayers that Jewish people carry out every day. So from a cultural point of view, everybody that lives in Israel, many people have come from lots of different countries, from 120 different countries. They've all assimilated in Israel, and they've all got a mixture of culture. And this is what you saw with Anna Aref. They were playing a mixture of cultures, both Israeli and Arab, and that's how the people tend to live in Israel.
Absolutely. And also some people really think that that Israel is so diverse. I mean, if you just look at the Jewish population that make up modern Israel. I mean, many of them come from, say, Yemen, others come from Argentina, others from Europe, others from the Middle East, from Iran, from Iraq, huge population from Iraq and other places in the Arab world, plus also many from South Africa. So it gives a real cultural diversity to the place. And one experience, I had some very close Israeli friends. She was once serving in the IDF, so she invited me home when I was living in Tel Aviv to attend a seder meal for Pesach, for Passover. And her family from Romanian, so they had a traditional Jewish Romanian Passover, which was very different from other Passovers. So how much does that add to the cultural melting pot that is Israel, because it's so diverse and so incredible?
It's unique, Simon. It's unique. What happens in Israel doesn't happen anywhere else in the world, because people have come to Israel from all the countries. Now, they do this because of the right of return. Israel has a right of return for Jews from all over the world. And sometimes at the stall, people say to me, well, why should Israel allow Jews to come back to Israel and have a right of return? These people don't know there are over 30 countries in the world that have a right of return. They just think Israel is the only one. That includes France, Finland, Germany, Greece, Ireland has got a right of return, India has got a right of return. So it's not unique to Israel. It's just that Israel welcomes its Jewish people from all over the world. And one day, if there is a Palestinian state, then I expect the Palestinians will also have a right of return to Palestine.
Yeah, but sadly, part of that negotiations is, particularly with Fatah and the PLO, is that part of the negotiations is that they want a so-called return of the Palestinians to be returning to Israel proper, something like 800,000 coming into Israel. But they make no mention of the fact that over 700,000 Jewish refugees from Arab lands were forced from their homes. So when you look at it, it's a moral equivalent, isn't it? That sadly so many Arabs were forced. Well, they weren't actually forced from home, because many of their Arab leaders were saying, leave your homes during Israel's war of independence, leave your home and flee your homes, and next day you'll be able to come back when our armies come in and completely destroy the Jewish communities and destroy Israel, then you can have your homes back. But sadly, those who stayed prospered, but those who left obviously are suffering today, and also they're still in a refugee situation because the Arabs failed to take responsibility, unlike Israel, who looks after the Arab-Israeli refugees, the Arab-Jewish refugees who came to Israel.
Well, they don't mention it because it doesn't suit their narrative.
Absolutely.
They just want to make people believe that this was a one-way process. Now, the Palestinians are the only refugees in the world that have been refugees for 60 years. Why are they still called refugees? Most of the people that live in these camps were not born in Palestine. They're not really Palestinians. They just happen to be from families that used to live in Palestine. Now look at what happened in the India partition. 14.5 million people moved for safety between India and Pakistan. None of them were refugees anymore. They were all settled in the countries to which they were accepted. And the same thing should have happened with the Palestinians. They should have been settled in Jordan or Syria or Lebanon, which is where they live just now. They haven't been settled because the Arab countries don't want to do that. They want to use the refugees as a political point, and it's the Palestinians that are suffering because of that.
Absolutely. And I have to tell you, we're down to the last 5 minutes or so of the programme, Sammy. Now, you're organising a conference organised for the 25th of September, where one of the themes of the conference is the approaching 100th anniversary of the signing of the Balfour Declaration. Can you tell us what your conference entails, and particularly for our viewers living in Scotland, what they can expect if they would like to attend?
Well, firstly, it's good to know this is our second annual conference. We had one last year, and we managed to last long enough to have a second conference. It's going to be called Balfour and Beyond because, as you said, next year is going to be the centenary of the Balfour Declaration. It's also going to be the 50th anniversary of the Six-Day War. And so we're inviting as many people as possible to come to our conference, which will be on the 25th of September. And it's going to be about the story of the establishment of the State of Israel, all the way back from the Balfour Declaration through the years to where we are now, and hopefully looking forward to when we can have peace in the region for both peoples. And that's what it's going to be about. So we have a variety of speakers. that will be speaking there. There's going to be a workshop, a couple of workshops. There's going to be a Q&A session to give people an opportunity to find out more about what's happening in Israel. And we're hoping to get many people coming to this event. It's a Sunday. It's going to be a whole day event, which will start about 10:30 and finish about 4 o'clock. The other thing we're doing is we recognize Sunday is a day that many Christian people go to church. So we're having a Sunday service for them, which will be on before the conference starts. And one of our group is a reverend, a minister, and he will take the service. After the service, we will start the conference proper, and we hope to have a most wonderful day for all the people that come.
I'm very impressed with that. That's very impressive, and that's a good thing to do. So thank you for doing that, Sammy, because so many Christians like to attend a lot of these pro-Israel events, but also feel that they're missing out because they're not having their Sunday service. So the fact that there is a Sunday service before the conference, I think is a great idea, and hope other groups and organisations take that up, because that's very kind and very considerate.
Yeah, we recognise that we are a multi-denominational group, and therefore we have to cater for all the people in the group, and that's one way of doing it.
And I've got to say, we're down to the last 4 minutes of the programme, and for our viewers watching this programme who, if you live up in Scotland or near Glasgow and you would like to get involved in Israel and you haven't done so, how can they get involved, Sam?
The best thing to do is to come to the stall. We're there every Saturday in Buchanan Street. People who know Glasgow, we're just between the Apple Store and Starbucks, just at St. Vincent Street. and we welcome people all the time. We want them to come and speak to us, let them see what we're doing, meet some of our members, and if there's anything at all they can do and want to do, we would welcome them into the group.
Absolutely, and we put your email up on screen, so if you want to get in touch with Sammy directly, you can. I think what you're doing is great, Sammy, and it's great that you are giving Israel a voice in the streets of Glasgow. You're taking those streets back. You're changing the narrative that surrounds Israel to a more positive one and an actual truth one, and you're actually winning this battle of truth. Where would you like to see Glasgow Friends of Israel, say, from 5 years from now?
Well, I'd like it to grow, and I'd like it to be even more active than it is just now. So as well as the stall, we run speaker events every month or so, and we've had 4 this year, and now we've stopped for the Shalom Festival and for the conference. But in December and November, we plan to have a couple of more speakers coming to Glasgow to speak to the community, which, when I say community, I don't mean the Jewish community, I mean the Glasgow community. And we would like to be able to see that grow and have more people join us and have more events, and for people to know the truth about what's happening in Israel, and to understand that we are not a pro-Israel group, we are a pro-peace group. And what we're trying to do is help both the Israelis and the Palestinians achieve their future.
And also have members of the Jewish community in Glasgow been encouraged by what you've done and by taking to the streets of Glasgow to explain Israel's position?
I think people were very worried when we first started saying that we would go on the street, and they were quite afraid. And even our own children, when they spoke to Vicky and I, said, "Oh, please be careful that nothing happens to you. We're very afraid for you to be out in the street." But I can tell you, we don't have any major issues with the people in Glasgow. Glasgow is known to be very, very friendly, and the people are very friendly. And most people that come to us are incredibly friendly. And that's what we intend to keep doing.
Excellent. Sammy, I just want to thank you so much for being my guest on today's Middle East Report, and thank you for coming to share, particularly about Glasgow Friends of Israel's first anniversary. So congratulations, and may you go from strength to strength in campaigning for Israel and proclaiming the truth of Israel and regaining the narrative about Israel, but more importantly, telling ordinary people about the incredible cultural heritage that Israel, and explaining the truth regarding Israel's situation.
Well, it's been a pleasure, Simon, and if this program can help us get more members and for more people to know about the work we're doing, it's been absolutely wonderful.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Safe journey back
home
to Scotland.
Thank you.
And I just want to thank you all for watching today's program. And what we've really realised is the difference in nature between those who support Israel and the Jewish people, and those who blindly support the Palestinians, but do it in the name of hate and intimidation, and that never works. So it's important that we stand up for Israel, we stand up for the Jewish people, that we tell them that they're not alone, and that we can all say that I am Israel. So I'll leave you with this beautiful song that declares the truth about Israel.
and shine a light. Wave your flag around the world, let's unite. It's our time that we stand up and shine a light. Boom, bang, flash, your heart starts racing. In our history, it was us they were chasing. When we unite, when we come together, we won't be afraid. We'll be here forever. Our Yom Ha'atzmaut, May 14, 1948. Arm in arm, we became a state. From the blazing sunsets to golden sunrise, our history and journey and future continue to thrive. Think good, it will be good. Now what we see is fireworks from ammonium and nitrate to celebrate our victory. Put your hand on my heart, look in my eyes, for the souls that have perished looking from above, to heroes living in land. I am Israel.